right ahead. I dreamed last night that I was a tiger in the jungle, that I was a big bad tiger, came along and killed me. And then I was an elephant, a great big elephant. There wasn't anything I couldn't do till they caught me and they brought me to the zoo. And then I was an alligator, crocodile? No, alligator, with a great big mouth and 4 very funny little legs, which are no good for dancing. And then I was a dancing bear, and I was doing my dancing where the bears dance. And I was sneezing, 'cause I was a dancing polar bear, and it was freezing. And then I was a tall giraffe. I looked so ridiculous, I wanted to laugh, but giraffes can't talk, so how can they laugh? Who ever heard a giraffe laugh? And then I woke up, and I was not a tiger or an elephant. I was not an alligator. Crocodile? No, alligator. I was not a dancing bear or a tall giraffe. I was only me. And that's the way I'll be. Yes, that's the way I'll be. I enjoy being an oyster. Thank you. I used to sing that song to my kids all the time because I wanted them to be happy who they were. You know, they might not have been the tallest or the bravest or the, best artist, or definitely not the one with the best penmanship. But I wanted them to be happy who they were. I have 5 children. They are so drastically different in many, many ways. They have a lot of things in common, but there's basically nothing they all have in common except for their parents. And God gave me that through my mother. She all taught us that. And I think I could thank her because my session today is entitled Contentment with Where We Are. I think we're on page 13. And so I don't mean that we are, right now we're at Golden Camp, where we are in our lives. When I was Caitlin's age, I thought 61-year-old people had a foot in the grave, had, a gray bun and granny glasses and, and we're waiting for the undertaker to come along. I'm very thankful now that I am almost 62 that is not the case. I just took a walk. I mean, like, way out there. It was fun. And I'm still talking, even with asthma. That's right. I have witnesses. That's right. So, I don't know, when I was turning 30, I thought I was going to die. That whole 29 and a half thing, and from there to 30 is like, oh no, I'm never going to be in my 20s again. And then 40 was a little worse, but I worked at the bank then, and when you had a birthday, you got a bunch of food, so that wasn't as bad. I thought turning 50 was going to kill me, but it wasn't really, wasn't that much different than 49. I didn't really care. But I was so grateful, honest to goodness, grateful when I turned 60 because I finally got it. I finally got that it's not about that number on the calendar. It's about how you live your life for the Lord. And it was just so different. And when she was talking about contentment, one of my favorite verses about contentment, we've already read it before a couple of times, but I'm going to read it to us again. It's 2 Timothy 6 through 8. I want to look at it a little bit differently than the way, who was it? Why is this falling down? Oh, yeah, Mary, thank you. There. I can't look at that and turn pages, so. That fell down. Oh well. Where am I? 2 Timothy's before that.
I think it'll be okay if you put it back.
You think? Okay. Okay. I should have this memorized, but I'm not going to take a chance. Can you hear me? Yeah, let's forget about it. Thought I had it highlighted. It's really hard to read. Okay. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. But having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Now, I should be able to say that verse to you. Probably could, but these days I'm a lot more nervous about whether I remember things right or not. When the kids were little, we lived in Ohio. We lived very, very close to Cedarville Christian College. So during the day while I was doing my housework and stuff, I would have Cedarville Christian College on the radio. And I'd listen to Charles Stanley and John MacArthur and I don't know who else, a bunch of great guys. And Joni Eareckson Tada, all those people. In between all of these shows, the DJ would come on and he'd say, our Bible verse for this week is, and he'd have a different verse every week, and hopefully if I'd been listening and paying attention, by the end of the week I at least had it in my brain, not necessarily memorized. Well, one week it was these 3 verses together. And it stuck with me for the rest of my life. Because I hit with, like Mary Elizabeth said, food and raiment. Doesn't talk about shelter. Doesn't talk about family, friends, job, income. No, food and raiment. And God says that that's enough to make us content. So that tells me that all these wonderful things that we have in addition are fluff. They're the thank you Jesus stuff. But we should be content with that. So that really hit me back then. It didn't hit me with, back then when I can't even remember how old I was. In my early 30s probably. Because Becca was born when I was 29. But it didn't hit me at that part of my life. It hit me with, you know what? I've got 5 kids. If I don't have a roof over their heads, the government's coming and taking them away. And I really paid attention to that verse and learned from that verse because Merton's been pastoring most of our marriage. He had like a 3-year period there where his job switched him to Illinois and we worked in the church but he didn't pastor. And the only reason we moved from there was because he got a pastor. But most pastors don't make a whole lot of money, I was used to because my dad was pastor. So, I was used to not very much money, but we always had food, we always had clothes, we always had a place to live, and that sort of stuff. So, this really hit me with, can I trust God and be content, even if that's all we got? So that's verses that have affected me very strongly for the rest of my life. But I look at Philippians 4:11, and if you look on your page, on page 13 there, I've got it there in 4 different versions. I'm going to ask 4 different people. I want you to read those for us out loud. Okay, Caitlin, would you read the first one, please? Real loud.
Not that I speak for one, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am.
Okay. Christy, would you read the KJV for me, please, there?
Not that I speak in respect of one, for I have learned, whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content.
Okay. I need somebody else. How about Penny? She reads so well because she's a teacher. Would you read the NIV, please, Sue?
I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances.
Okay. How about Stephanie? Reading the NLT for me, please.
Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have.
These all say the same thing, all in a little bit of a different way. But this is talking about where we are in our life right now. Because it's talking about my circumstances, my state. I heard a great Bible study when I was praying for Mary Elizabeth. And this lady taught on the difference between your standing and your state. My standing as a Christian is that I have accepted Christ as my Savior and I am on my way to heaven. Nothing is going to change that. My state is changeable. My circumstances change. So when we read this verse, we need to think about what are my circumstances, and can I say with Paul, I have learned that no matter what my state or my circumstances are, to be content. And it's not just to be content, but therewith to be content. To be content with those circumstances the way they are. So you got a few lines on that page. Take a couple of minutes, think about your life, and write down what is your state, what are your circumstances. Now I'm not talking about, I have blue eyes or I'm a mom or something like that. No, circumstances in your life right now. Okay? So, that could be I have asthma, or I work at Marshall's, or I have a dog and a cat. Things that are in your situation right now that are changeable, but your state right now in your life. So everybody we'll take about 5 minutes and everybody write those down. That done? Oh, I got a few people writing. Oh, wait. Excuse me. Okay? You can keep writing if you want to, but I want you to look at your answer. I want you to look through those things. Are there any things on that list that you cannot change? I don't want you to tell me what they are, but if you got things on the list of stuff you just wrote that you cannot change, raise your hand. Like you can't just say, okay, I don't like this one, I'm changing it. If you can't change it, if there's something on there that's not changeable, okay? Okay, my part of my state is I have asthma. I've looked it up. Asthma never goes away. You may get a lot better. But I'm stuck with asthma for the rest of my life. Can't change it. Okay. Okay, so here's what I want you to think about with that. Okay? Can I be content with asthma? Luke 12:25. It is really hard to read in here. And which of you, with taking thought, can add to his stature 1 cubit? Now, this is KJV because it was my biggest print Bible. So it basically means I'm 5'1". If I think really, really hard, can I be 5'2"? No. Now, I love to tell people you're as tall as you think you're all, and I'm 5'8", but I'm not really. I know it's a shock, but no, I'm not. So there are things that God's telling us. There are some things you can't change. That's it. Sorry. That's it. So, when we look at those things on our list that we cannot change, and maybe it's hard to think about being content with those things, you know what we need to do? We need to be logical about that. You can't change it, don't worry about it. Accept it, go on. You know? That's the way it is. There might be a reason that you have that circumstance in your life that God intends to use. And I'm telling you, sometimes those are circumstances that are bad that you didn't cause, but God uses them anyway. So, okay, that happened to her. She had no control over that happening to her. She did nothing wrong to cause that to happen to her. But I'm going to use that for my good. I'm going to give you a quick example. Most of you know, probably everybody here knows, that Burton had, still has, kidney disease. As a result, he was on dialysis 6 years. He's had a kidney transplant for many, many years. But Merton was always the big, strong guy, the athlete. He had his high school coaches in basketball, football, and baseball all told him, work hard, you can be a pro. All three. But he got hit by kidney disease, and it debilitated him. And those years, especially when he was on dialysis, he never quit pastoring. He rarely was out of the pulpit on a Sunday morning. But it was debilitating in many ways. So one day, with this one sweet, faithful lady in our church who prayed so hard for her boys. She had a daughter that loved the Lord and still serving the Lord. But she had 3 boys, and they were not saved. And they had no interest at all in the things of the Lord. And it broke her heart. So, we prayed with her and prayed with her. And this one couple, their daughter came to church a lot with her grandma, but they would not darken the door. They didn't even come to watch her in the Christmas play or anything. But they were EMTs. And Merton had the funeral of a fireman, and every EMT and fireman and policeman and everybody wearing a uniform in Clinton County came to this funeral. Merton was just fine until he tried to walk from the tent back to the car. And he went down. And I couldn't get him back up. And along came this couple. And they're very sweet people, and totally taken with compassion for Merton. And they helped him, and they took care of him, and they got him back to the car, and they checked his blood pressure, and they watched over him, kept calling to ask if he was better and stuff. And wouldn't you know, the very next Sunday, that couple was in church. A couple weeks later, that couple was saved. That couple's still serving the Lord today. And Merton and I always say, if you had not gotten kidney disease, they might have already had a car wreck and gone to hell. We don't know why God lets these circumstances happen to us. But we can be content in them if we trust the fact that even if we can't change it, our circumstance can work for God's glory. So just be content in it and accept it. Gail is such an amazing example of that. She has faced this cancer with, okay, fine, this is what God's given me, and I'm going to take it right now, and I'm going to live His glory, cancer or no cancer. She's such an inspiration. Okay. Now, look on your list and find something on that list that you just love about your circumstances. And I'm going to ask a few of you to tell me what that thing is. You might have 10 things on there you love, but give me one thing on your list that you love about your circumstances right now. Who wants to go first? Christy.
I get to volunteer at the school with the boyfriend.
Did everybody hear that? She gets to volunteer at the school. Isn't that great? You know, a few years, those boys will be way too old for her to do that. She's enjoying that while she's where she is right now. Isn't that a great blessing? Okay, somebody else. Selma?
I have a wayward son, and he thinks he's accepted the Lord, but he really hasn't. And that's sort of like a thorn in my side, but the thing that I appreciate, I'll say joy, is that it has kept me on my knees with the Lord. I know that I can't do anything to change him, but I'm excited about what God is going to do in his life.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Okay, anybody else? Somebody else want to give me something that they love? Stephanie?
I'm in school with them.
That's great. Yeah. See, Michael?
Can't hear you.
Say it louder, sweetie.
I was just saying, it's kind of an example of like how God like turns someone around where I was working in a career transition academy and I was informed at the end of the school year that they were changing the position and that it was no longer going to be me and there. And then later found out that I was infected with Clostridium, so I'm really just very glad that I have at home treatment right now, and just that it was worked out. It was very
That's great. Exactly. And those are memories that she'll have later to use in her state later. Okay, so what's the point? You got things in your life that are great. Revel in them. We had so much fun on our walk because we were out there. I love that word, revel. We were reveling in God's creation. We were noticing the differences in the trees and the colors of the leaves. And, you know, I mean, how many of us, now maybe not everybody, but how many of us can look out of one of the windows of our house and see nature? You know, that's amazing. You know, I mean, think about the people in big cities. They see concrete, they see bricks. Now, they can revel in that because some of that's pretty too, but we're country folk. We get to see a lot of really great stuff every year. You know, some guy yesterday said, I just ran into some stranger, and he said, "Are you glad it's fall?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm glad every time the season changes. I love it all. That's what's wonderful about Indiana. You know, it's all pretty and it all, you know, I'm ready for it to change when it changes, but that's the way it is." Now, what about the things on your list? And I'm not going to ask you to say these out loud. Some of us have some things on our list that we could change. Maybe things we think we should change. But things on there that we can change about our state, about our circumstances. You know? I mean, quite obviously, I could lose weight. Now, I know if I count my calories and eat right and exercise, and Mary Elizabeth, I did take a walk. She's my weight loss Nazi. But where I have to be with that is, yes, for my health, I should eat better. for my health, I should exercise. Would I like the way I would look in a mirror if I was a size 6? Sure. Is that going to happen? Now, I could really lose weight. I could be like my sister and drop a bazillion pounds. I ain't still never going back to a size 6. That was high school. It ain't coming back. It's okay. I'm not in high school anymore. I don't have to be a size 6. But if there are things on our list that maybe we should change, and maybe it's something spiritual, maybe on our list, it's I don't have enough faith, or pride is invading my life, or whatever. The great thing about that is that doesn't have to stay our circumstance. But do we have to do the work of changing it? We turn that over to God. And we say, okay, God, this is my thing. And I was going to do this later, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to give you my biggest confession. This is my besetting sin. This is what gets Valerie every time. Pride. There are over 500 verses in the Bible. They all say it's bad. So, and you know what? I had the best time. I had, Cole. I was teaching it in junior church several months back, maybe a year or so. And I told them, there are over 500 verses in the Bible that say pride's bad. So is there such a thing as good pride? And Cole goes, well, no, there's 500 verses that say it's bad. I said, he listened. But we have the joy of knowing that all we have to do is say, okay, Lord, that's my problem. Will you fix it? I'll let you. Now, I can't say, Lord, I really want to lose weight, but I'm going to go eat that fudge first. I'll do it tomorrow. Now, I'm going to eat fudge, sorry. I would like to lose weight, but I don't want to lose weight as bad as I want to eat fudge, so I'm not going to lose weight. You're not going to see much change here. That's okay. But the big thing about it, if there's something on there, especially spiritual, but even if it's not spiritual, maybe you're in a job that where there are a lot of temptations, or maybe you're hanging around with a crowd that leads you into sin, or I could probably come up with 1,000 things. But if there are things like that in your life that you really need to change, you just turn it over to the Lord and you leave it there. You got to remember, my mother said that the biggest problem that people had in prayer was that they were Indian givers. They'd hand it over to God and then they'd snatch it right back. Now, God, please take care of this, but let me worry about it in the meantime. Can't do that. He isn't going to mess with it until you give it to him and let him keep it. Now, I got another poster. This one I think I can say by heart. And you all know it. This is KJV again, because when I memorize verses, I memorize them all in KJV. So that's the way we are. Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Now I'm going to show you something before we talk about the verse. Normally, that would drive me crazy. I would have started that poster over. I headed to the other room to grab that other poster board. And I thought, wait a minute, this is about contentment. Can I be content with the fact that I made a mistake and let people know I made a mistake? Yeah, because usually I think, I don't want people to know I did that. So, people, I made a mistake. There it is. It's one of the 4 billion that I did that day. But what I love most about this verse, we all concentrate on, all things work together for us. What's this? One thing I love about the KJV, this little word right here. The called. Who are the called? Christians. All people who are saved. It's not if you get to a certain point in your Christian life. It's not after you've been saved so many years. Once you've accepted Christ in your heart, you are the called according to his purpose. We're here for his purpose. It's so great that we can enjoy the ride. But we're here to serve God. We're here for His purpose. That's what He's called us to. Isn't that great? So can we be content when that's our circumstance? Yeah, we can. It's pretty cool. The other thing about that is we're not the ones in control. We're called for His purpose. He's in control. So we just relax and revel in that. Let Him take care of it. And there's no need for us to worry. This one I do not have to turn to because I've said it to the children thousands of times. 1 Peter 5:7. Mary Elizabeth can say it with me. Casting all your care upon Him, for He careth for you. It's so relaxing to take the stuff off your back that could make you sad or worried or whatever, and just cast that off and give it to God because He cares for me. You know, I got a husband, I got 5 kids, I got 14 grandkids, I got a bunch of adopted kids. Got a few back there. Bunch of adopted grandkids. They love me. I know they love me. But no matter what happens, those circumstances might change. Hopefully they won't. I'll be real honest. My son did not talk to me for about 6 months this year. It bothered me until I prayed about it, gave it to God, and left it there. I got my kid back. But God cares for me so much. He cares for Valerie Eastwood Bobo so much that He wants all my care, so I don't have to have any. And we can put all of our names in there. He cares for us. And He doesn't want us to be concerned. One thing that, I can't remember, was Mary Elizabeth? I don't know, maybe a lot of us today have said, we are all unique. One thing I was thinking about, everybody here is unique. Our circumstances are not unique. You know, I have unusual circumstances in the world's situation. I grew up in a preacher's home. I married a preacher. I had 5 kids, which at that point in time was weird. I have, you know, different things like that. But that's not unique. I'm sure I would not have to look too far to find another preacher's kid who married a preacher who had 5 kids. But I'm very uniquely Valerie. Good thing for everybody else. But because God made us this way, and He gave us these circumstances that we're in right now, He says, you just relax. I've got this, just like Stephanie's shirt says, God's got it. Right? You don't have to, what's it say? Don't worry. Don't worry, God's got this. That is so perfect for this session. No matter what circumstances we're in right now, where we are in life, where we live, what our age is, what our health is, what our family life is, God's got it. So we can be content. We can wake up happy in the morning listening to the birds sing. We may hear our bones crack, but we can hear the birds sing, right? So there's a saying that's been around for years, but be comfortable in your own skin. And I think that is apropos for this thing because God's got it. There's nothing that's going to happen to us today God doesn't already have handled. So just relax. Be content where you are. And there are a lot of advantages to being content where you are. One of them that I really love is you can find that you are capable of laughing at yourself. Now, because my big one was pride, I had trouble laughing at myself, and when people would laugh at me, it would hurt my feelings. But you know what? I've learned, some of these stupid things I do aren't that funny. So I laugh at them. And it's comfortable. Another wonderful advantage. I don't know if it's just being comfortable where you are, it's being 61. I am no longer capable of being embarrassed. That's fantastic. I do stupid embarrass other people things all the time. I don't need something in the ways for me to trip on it. I could trip anyway. You know. There were 2 dorms with a little walkway between them in college. And when that would ice over, that was dangerous. Now, I don't know how many bazillion times I've walked across that on the ice and not fallen, but one day when it was totally dry, I took a flying tumble, ended up in the hospital with a bruised tailbone. You know, my life has been very embarrassable, but it's pretty cool. Another great thing is that you can let go of bitterness. Now let's see if I can find Ephesians 4:31 in here, in this mess of bookmarks. There it is. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. You know what? It's really difficult to be content if you're bitter. Somebody did this horrible thing to me 20 years ago and they never apologized. You know what? They ain't going to do it now. So what? They don't. It was like Linda was telling us at Bible study the other night. You know, when you're bitter, the only person you're hurting is yourself. So let it go. And if you're content in your circumstances, you're not bitter. You know, I mean, you might even be able to see, you know, that poor guy, he's going through life doing these neat things to people, he's probably losing friends all over the place. And start praying for him. Another thing, and the reason I was going to use the poster a different time is, you can let go of pride. When you're content where you are, you know that it's all God's glory anyway. I used to tell the children when they'd come home from school and they'd show me their little A, I'd say, oh, I'm so proud of you. I was teaching them, you're doing this for yourself. You know what you say? Hey, that's great. You did that for God's glory. Big difference. Another thing that's a result of being content where you are is that the more content you are, the more you trust God. My most favorite verses in the Bible are Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. You know what? The more we trust him, the more we realize he's got this. I'll just follow his path. He'll show me where to go. Sometimes I don't understand why I'm going there. When I met Merton at Bible College in Springfield, Missouri. He was from Ohio. I was from Indiana. We'd never known each other. The year before, I realized that God was actually calling me to go to BBC. For years, I had known people. My brother went there 4 years. I knew lots of people that had gone there. And I had one friend that was a preacher up in northern Indiana who I always say, he's the only guy I ever met that didn't come out of BBC warped. You know, I mean, he was a critical, nasty person back then. But, so I said, you know, surely if God wants me to go to Bible college, he wants me to go to Indiana Baptist College in India. Or he wants me to go to, Maranatha, or, you know, I mean, it's naming all these different colleges that I knew well and everything. And no, I was sitting in the third pew from the back. Dad wasn't preaching on this at all. And God was saying, Valerie, you're going to BBC. And I mean, I'm not joking. My feet just glued to the ground. I did not want to go to BBC. I hated the place. And I just kept, feeling like my toes were trying to go through my feet into the ground. And finally I said, okay, fine. So I got up and I walked down the aisle and Dad shook my hand and said, what'd you come down here for, honey? I said, God wants me to go to BBC. And my very spiritual, interesting father, who would say nothing like this to anybody else, said, but you hate BBC. I said, I know. What am I going to do? And he said, you're going to pray that you'll love BBC. So I did. That was February. By August, when I got to BBC, I was thrilled. I didn't want any mom and dad, but, I was thrilled. I had no idea why God wanted me to go to BBC. I went through my whole first year. And I learned and I enjoyed it. I learned so many things about teaching children. Even had a class called Teaching Children. And it was so much amazing knowledge and met so many wonderful friends and all this. And I didn't even meet Merton till February. We really didn't even hardly talk. We went to the same church for a while, but we didn't know each other at all. I went home that summer, and I determined I was going to get my high school boyfriend back. That was what I was going to do that summer. And we hardly saw each other. And I kept thinking, I know that's God's will. He's this great Christian kid, and we really enjoyed being friends, you know. And now that I look back, he was my friend. That was about all it was. You know, it was fun to have a best friend through high school, and it was not this romantic thing that had built up in my eyes. I go back to college, and I decided, okay, fine, I'm not dating anybody. I'm just going to go to school this year. I'm not going on any dates. I'm just going to study. And September 15th, Merton and I went on our first date. By November 28th, we were engaged. June 26th, we were married. There was a reason. That's how it got me there to meet the guy from Ohio. I wouldn't have crossed paths with any other way. God knows what he's doing. Sometimes he asks you to do stuff that you don't want to do or that doesn't make sense. But he knows what he's doing, so be content in it. Do it. And you know what? What's really cool about it is that he knows how it's all going to end. I love to do this. This is so much fun. I like to sometimes use a pencil, sometimes use a ruler. This is time. Okay? We're in here somewhere. We're born in here somewhere and we die in here somewhere, but we're in here. We're locked in. We're governed by time. You know what? God made time. God's out here. I might be right here and I might be dying right here, but God already knows what that is. He sees it from here. He knows what's happening. He knew that when I was really, really old, he was going to all of a sudden slap some asthma on me. He's got a reason. Okay. Maybe so I can commiserate with my grandchildren, many of which have asthma. I don't know. But it doesn't matter because he's got this. I can be content, asthma or no asthma. You know, most people are almost embarrassed for me when they say, oh, where are you working? Marshall's. What do you do? I'm a cashier. Oh. You know? Oh, Stephanie's shaking her head. You know what? That's where God put me. So that's a great place to work. Now, I'm very fortunate. There's a lot of really nice people there, and I'm meeting Christians right and left over there. But I think if you'd have asked me when I was 20, what's your big ambition? I don't think I would have said I want a cashier at a retail store, especially at Christmas. But you know what? He knows the end. He knows the rest of the story. So all we need to do is just relax, revel in it, trust him, turn over whatever it is we haven't turned over. And you know what? Sometimes we'll do the Indian giver thing when we take it back. Give it back. Don't keep it. God can make us very content. I'm not saying happy, just like somebody else said, it's not always happy. You know, I'll give you a good example of that too. My parents were married well over 50 years. For the last 4 years of my mother's life, she was in a nursing home. My dad lived in an apartment connected near the nursing home, not in the same building, but near. He would get up every morning, eat his breakfast, pack his little yellow bag with the mail and a crossword puzzle and a few things like that, and he would traipse over to the nursing home. He'd be there in time to help Mom eat her breakfast. He'd help her eat her lunch. He'd help her eat her supper. He'd kiss her goodnight, make sure the radio was on, and he'd go home 7 days a week, 4 years. The only time he didn't was he never missed, he would go to church unless she was feeling really bad. He would go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays, but other than that, he was there. Mom died the day after Christmas. All the people at the nursing home were so used to seeing, they would all call him Pastor Cal. They just loved Pastor Cal. And he would do Bible studies. He'd wheel Mom's wheelchair out to the big room and he'd play the piano and lead songs, and somebody printed their hymn book was really cool. It was in like our folders, and the letters were like yay big. It was just so cool. And they'd sing the old songs together, and he'd sing silly songs and stuff. So all the people at the nursing home were talking between themselves, and they said, we're really going to miss having Pastor Cal here too, because they love Mom. They knew they were going to miss her, but in that part of life in a nursing home as nurses and aides, that your people are going to die. But I thought, man, we hope he'll come by someday. Well, a day or so after the funeral, in walks my dad. And I said, well, hi, Pastor Cal, who'd you come to see? So everybody. So what? And he goes, just because we go to pass on doesn't mean that I'm done here. I've got people here to minister to. And he went every day. He did his Bible study every week. He did all the things, and he would be in the building when they'd say, hey, Pastor Cal, and they used to do this all the time when Mom was alive. So-and-so is really close to death. Could you come pray with them? Or Mr. So-and-so is really having a rough day. Would you go pray with them or read the Bible or something? So he went every day. And he would talk to us girls every day. Every time we talked to him, no matter what, if we were with him 5 minutes or 5 hours, he would talk about Mom. He missed my mom so bad. They were together for years. But you know what? He was content. He found joy in every day. He wasn't always happy. There's a difference between joy and happiness. He wasn't always happy because he wanted to be with Mom. But he was content because he would tell you, I don't know why God left me here, but he's got a reason. And until he takes me home to your mom, I'm going to serve him down here. That's the kind of contentment he's talking about, in being content where you are. It sounds hard, but it's not. It's all in just giving it to God. It's relaxing. It's refreshing. It's freeing. So I'm going to challenge you. When you're thinking about, oh no, not another fill in the blank. Or I can't believe I have to fill in the blank. Or I can't believe that he said fill in the blank. Turn it over to God and be content where you are.